welcome to another video. Purple Political Talk here. And today we're going to be looking at the 2020 presidential election, going through some of the latest polls around all states and some specific battleground states. So we're going to analyze these polls and see what they can tell us about the 2020 presidential election. Who's leading, what are some trends that we're seeing, and all these different things. So, before we get started, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my latest video. So, let's get started. So first, I'm going to use 538 for just going through the polls that have been released recently in a lot of these different states. They don't necessarily have to be swing state, but for the most part, they are. So, this Georgetown University poll of nationwide had Biden ahead plus 13. So we're going to look at some of the averages later on, specifically when I use Real Clear Politics for state by states. However, nationwide 13%, assume a 3 to 4% margin of error, could be plus 17 for Biden in somewhat of a best case scenario, plus 9 for Biden in a worst case scenario, which to be honest is pretty good. And these are the polls as of right now. This doesn't mean that these polls are going to hold up towards August. And this does not mean that these polls are going to be completely 100%, because polls in early August 2016 were completely off of where the election was actually headed. So just keep that in mind while we're analyzing these polls. Wisconsin, so YouGov released 3 polls, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Biden plus 6, Biden plus 9, and Biden plus 4. So what can we see here? Very interesting that Michigan's actually becoming more closer than states like Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. So one may think that Wisconsin and Pennsylvania might be closer than Michigan. However, Michigan is actually having somewhat more support for Trump. Again, there is margin of error here, so it could be a lot closer. It could be further into the polling data for Joe Biden. Arizona, Biden plus 4. That's kind of where the benchmark is right now. We've been seeing in that state. Nebraska's first congressional district. I think they or either they misspelled Maine or Nebraska's first, because they don't usually pull Nebraska's first. That is interesting. Plus 2 for Trump. Wisconsin. Again, YouGov and Pennsylvania YouGov plus 6. Again, shows us a trend that we're currently seeing. And then we have a lot of these polls from Kansas, Texas, nationwide, and then a lot of nationwide polls. So, and these were released before the pandemic, so we can see the difference. So, Kansas, I don't know why they really pulled this, because it's not that close. Biden, Trump plus 7, not so good for the Republicans. They're probably gonna have to start spending some money in the state. Texas, Trump plus 6. That's usually where the where it should be going, comparing it to 2016. However, Trafalgar's group has been known to have a little bit of bias in the polls. Nationwide, more polls, Biden plus 10. Utah, Biden, Trump plus 19. I'm actually surprised by this, just because of how the state of Utah doesn't really like Donald Trump, so that's something else to note. Michigan, 11 points plus Biden. I think that should be outside the margin of error. Everything else is polling data, but we could see how before the pandemic, it was easy to say that Trump and Biden were about even or a little bit towards Biden, and now they're completely off the charts. For Biden, he's leading this presidential election nationwide by 10 points, which is insane. So we have a lot more polls here. I think I'm gonna just use these Quinnipiac polls and data for progress polls. Some of these polls might have some bias in it just because of who did the polls. However, we're gonna go through them. South Carolina, Trump plus 5. Not ideal for the Republican Party. Maine's second congressional district, plus 1 for Trump. I see this around where that is right now. Plus 1 for Trump seems about accurate. I think he'll never push it out there. Maine's first congressional district, I don't know why they pulled that. 31 points ahead for Biden. Maine as a whole, 15 points ahead for Biden. That makes sense. You average those together, it gives you about 15 points for the Democrats. Kentucky, plus 9 for Trump. Again, not ideal. We could see this even go to the likely column. We haven't seen it yet. However, it's still a possibility. North Carolina, consistently Biden plus 2, Biden plus 10. Maine, Biden plus 7. Iowa, Biden plus 1. Trump plus 1, Trump plus 2. Arizona, we had Biden plus 3. Arizona again, Biden is +2. Wisconsin, Biden +11. Minnesota, Biden +18. So that shows us a lot of things. So those are all the polls that we have from 538. Now we're gonna look at the specific polling averages from swing states. So those will be all these states. There are obviously more swing states. However, we're just gonna focus on these. So actually, let's start off by going through the nationwide polling data that we do currently have at this point. I don't think that's working right now, but let's just check. For example, at this point, let's just look at Wisconsin as for now. I mean, Biden is leading consistently and is growing his lead, and I mean, he was leading by a lot smaller margin, maybe a couple. So again, Biden +6.9 is the average as of right now, and essentially, it's a lot of polls that have Biden up in the high single digits, so that's good for him. There was no put in this election that Donald Trump was leading in the general election polls. However, there was points where because they are the ones that show us how all the battlegrounds are looking. So they averaged out all the battlegrounds by their polling averages. All of them have Biden ahead, whether it be by a smaller margin or a larger margin. So all these top battlegrounds, which are Wisconsin, North Carolina, Florida, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Arizona, they have Biden ahead by a quite substantial margin. Wisconsin, Biden +6.4. North Carolina, Biden +4.6. Florida, Biden +4. Pennsylvania, Biden +5. Michigan, Biden +6.3. And Arizona, Biden +3.8. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see at this point what ends up happening. And honestly, we're going to end up having to find out if these polls are going to hold up. So in all these battlegrounds, the average is currently 5%. And I mean, all these states have different pollings from different parties, and they all have different things. However, I mean, kind of they all show that all Biden is ahead. So I want to look at the a map with no toss-ups at this time as well, because it has something to do with polls. And this is what RCP believes is going to happen in the 2020 presidential election. And right now they have Biden ahead 352 to Trump's 162. I mean, what really changes this for many predictions? This puts Ohio in the Biden column, and other than that, it looks like a normal prediction. And they also see this map shows with the national averages and all that stuff. And I mean, Biden is gaining a lot of support, especially in the Midwest. However, we're still pre-convention and pre-campaigning. Yeah, campaigning has sort of started, but we still haven't gotten to the meat and potatoes of the campaigning, where realistically all the hard campaigns and stuff like that happen. So I mean, at this point, this election is coming down to gonna come down to the nitty-gritty in the next couple of weeks. We're gonna see Joe Biden's margin somewhat narrow down, as well as Donald Trump narrowly increase. All these things can change, but I mean, there's some things that might not change. So at this point, that was my analysis of the 2020 polls. I hope you enjoyed the video. If so, please give it a huge thumbs up, like, subscribe, and turn on post notifications to get notified when I post my next video. Hope you enjoyed the video, and goodbye.